What is the craziest, scariest thing you've ever experienced as an anthropologist? My name's Kent Fowler. I'm associate prof in the Department of Anthropology, and I've held a number of positions in the department, but right now I'm just a teacher and a researcher, and I help keep the machine working. Lots of weird things. Okay, so I will distill this down into one very brief story. I was working in South Africa one field season. We had a very small camp. We were doing ethnoarchaeology, so there wasn't a lot of us. But we were camping at a friend's farm, and we weren't staying in the house. We were just staying outside the house. And in the evening, we had a little generator, and so I went to turn on the generator one evening, and I just had flip-flops on. And I felt two pricks on the back of my leg. And this is snake country and like mamba country, right? So I thought for sure that I had been bitten. And there was two little dots and little bits of blood coming down off them. I thought, that's it. I got 20 minutes. I'm dead. But I didn't feel any symptoms. After a few minutes, I didn't feel any symptoms at all. So we're idiots, and so we just waited another extra 5 minutes, and it's like, no, I don't feel any symptoms at all. I don't think we'll go into town. So I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and it was very nice, and I went back to the generator in the morning and found a stick that had exactly the same distance apart as a buff adder's teeth, and I had stepped on it, and it came up and bit me in the back of the leg. So I got bit by a stick. So it was scary for a while. I thought I was going to die. And then I realized I probably wasn't going to die. So we're very careful about snakes. How is anthropology important in our daily lives? Why should people care about anthropology? Well, this is an excellent question. It goes back to first principles in anthropology. I think it's important. It's the only discipline I know of that forces us to think about people in all times and all places. And so I think what we should do as humans is attempt to learn and understand as much about humanity as possible in all times and all places. And we do that by comparing what people do, how they solve problems, how they live their lives, how they get through their entire lifetime and pass that on to the next generation so they can do the same thing. And I think that's an incredibly worthwhile thing. So it has to be relevant to everybody's life. And that's why we should care about anthropology, because it's about us. What is your favorite movie and why? Oh, this is impossible. This is an impossible question to end. I love movies. I've watched thousands of movies, old movies, silent movies, any kind of movies. Favorite movie. Okay, I'm going to go with, I don't have a favorite movie. I'm going to go with 4 movies that I absolutely think are possibly the best movies ever made. First, Raiders of the Lost Ark, not because I'm an archaeologist at all. It's just a fantastic movie. Jaws, fantastic. Alien, brilliant movie. And The Pink Panther. The first one, the first Pink Panther movie. Maybe the second one. Funny. Peter Sellers, genius. And what research are you currently doing? Well, apparently I have a minute to answer this question, so I will keep it as brief as possible. What research am I currently doing? I am presently running a project about the Zulu kingdom in southeastern Africa, in present-day South Africa on the Indian Ocean coast. That project is entirely designed to try and understand the fiscal foundation of states. In other words, big, giant state-level societies with lots of people are expensive to run. Not just money expensive, but they're people expensive to run, their knowledge expensive to run. And so what we're trying to do is understand how that society emerged, how it was very successful for a short amount of time. And what we've begun to discover is really this is an incredibly dynamic period. It only lasted for 68 years until British conquest of the region, and which squashed and destroyed the Zulu kingdom. So we're really fascinated in this short snippet of time. We can see, with a combination of archaeology and historical records and oral history, how this developed, how it matured, and how it collapsed, all within 2 lifetimes, or the lifetime of a single person, if you live just long enough. That's what I'm doing. How does your research impact people? There's kind of this thing where a lot of people think archaeologists only deal with dead people, but we live in the modern world, and when we go to work in places, we deal with people who are alive all the time. So how does what we do impact things? Previously I said that we should be interested in why people do what they do and why they do that in all times and all places. Well, people are actually interested in this kind of thing. People whom you go to and meet with and talk with in communities often don't know that other people are interested in their history and their culture and their lifestyles. And so that's a venue for them, knowledge keepers in communities, to get that information out. We can help do that and just verify that this is a fascinating way to live in the world. And the history of doing that is incredibly fascinating. So this impacts individuals, it impacts communities that we work with. We translate some of that knowledge over into actual projects that we work with communities, or communities take on those projects themselves, like low-cost architecture and using one technology they already do and transfer it and use it for something else, like building houses instead of making pottery, something like that. We're dealing with extremely poor people sometimes. And that ability to just transfer knowledge is more about a discussion because no one's ever really discussed it with them before. And so stuff like that is really fun. And that's just one community. That's not the academic communities, the students that are involved, not just from here, but also from there. There's lots of different communities of people that we engage with along the way. So does it impact people? Yes. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I still have people who are 2 or 3 years old, who are the daughters of potters that I worked with a quarter of a century ago. And when I talk to them, they go, I will never forget the first time you came and you talked to my mom about doing this. So does it impact people, change their lives? Maybe, yeah, hopefully for good. Cats or dogs? It's a horrible question. I have both cats and dogs. 2 cats, 1 dog. I'll take the cats. Love dogs, but cats don't care about much and they leave you alone. Dogs are more needy. What is a weird or random fact you learned while studying anthropology that makes you laugh or that most people would not know? Okay. All right. Okay. Two things. One, a single European earthworm can displace a metric ton of soil every single year. That's weird. Weasels have penis bones. Janae's laughing, by the way. Stuff you learn.
I want to know how you learned that one.
Exactly. Yeah, you find a bone, you don't know what it is. Everyone agonizes over it. I have no idea. Ask someone who knows these kinds of things, and they go, "This is a penis bone of a weasel," and you go, "Why? Why?" Okay. Why did you get into anthropology, or what did you learn about anthropology? Utterly by accident. This was not a life plan by any stretch of the imagination. I tried university a few times before it stuck, and when I came back to university one of those times, I took some history courses. And then I started taking classical archaeology courses and classics. But as I progressed through that, I realized that a lot of the kind of explanations that were being used in more ancient Greek classical archaeology really didn't do it for me. And so I took a lot more courses in anthropology and realized, hey, wow, we can actually look at all the world instead of just a culture. And so that was pretty awesome. And I eventually just switched over to anthropology. And it was largely, boringly enough, because of theory, how we explain the world around us, why it works the way it does. And that is incredibly rich. And so that's how I got into anthropology, completely by accident. No plan. Have questions. How does the world work? And to this day, I'm kind of an anthropologist, but I do archaeology and sociology and whatever you need to do to answer the interesting questions you have. Are there any anthropologists you look up to and why? No, I don't. Yes, of course. Tim Ingold comes to mind. And why? Why Tim Ingold? Because Tim Ingold is interested in everything. And like myself, he's interested in everything. Unlike Tim, I don't write about everything. He does. And so I actually rely on him a lot to go, hey, here's another interesting idea that usually helps me along with things that I'm thinking about. And so I've found Tim's writings over his career to be just incredibly pivotal little moments to help me along in that. But my goodness, there is Mary Douglas, very much. Mary Douglas thought about symbolism and how people communicate and why they do it that way. I found that incredibly interesting. Daniel Miller, thinking about things. I'm an archaeologist, so I worry about things and how people kind of circulate around things and how do you people the things that we find in the past. Incredibly helpful. Yeah, and I think early on, a guy by the name of James Lett changed my life when I first got introduced to anthropology. He made anthropology understandable. Marvin Harris did not, but James Lett did. And that was very encouraging. So there are some anthropologists I definitely look up to. If you could go back in time, what period or culture would you love to live among? Oh, you know what? I would I would love to crawl over top of the Intangimbili Hill, go down the other side into the Tugela Valley about 1,400 years ago, into a little village that's down there, figure out what language they're speaking and talk to them, and then live amongst those people. Because that time, the earliest farming people in the southern part of Africa, I'm fascinated in how they lived their lives. And I would love to do that and figure out everything that we have thought wrong about how people have lived their lives. It would be great. Would love to do that. And also be a Viking. That'd be fun too. Get on a boat and go. That'd be awesome. Terrifying. Any final comments or thoughts? I think this is a wonderful idea. I'm happy to be introduced to you. I hope to see you in a class or a hallway or something at some point. And if you do come into one of my classes, please introduce yourself. I'm not a scary person at all, and I would love to meet you.